Yeah, it seems legit. Hey guys, I'm Yes or No, and I didn't script this video today because we're bringing in help from a book. Oh, focus on the book. This book is actually quite special to me because my friend Owes Hussein wrote it. We actually went to Harvard together. He graduated a year earlier, and immediately after graduating, he traveled to India on a travel fellowship, which you didn't even know those existed. Ha, they do. Some people are lucky enough to get them. Others of us just have to exploit ourselves on YouTube for views. And this book is essentially about all of his learnings that he took from going to India. He's basically talking about how to get through the life stages that I'm in right now, where you're just constantly stressed out and you don't know if what you're doing is the right path. I'll read you the first couple pages, and then we're going to talk about what to do when you feel lost in your 20s, taking lessons from this book and also taking thoughts from this head. So it starts out, it was the winter of 2014. I'm gonna skip around a little bit, but he said, other students were working hard too. Recruiting, accepting jobs at Goldman Sachs or Google. They were at the cusp of thinking about adult concepts like salaries and rent payments and preparing for the next few stages of their lives. Few of their choices appealed to me. I had seen enough from older students to know that working for 2 years at Morgan Stanley was a great way to crush one's spirit, and even at big tech companies, save for the brilliant few, most people felt like they were doing smart code monkey grunt work on some small feature, rather than preparing themselves, emotionally or philosophically, for meaningful impact in the world. Speak to my soul, Wes, why don't you? All right, and then the second page is so good, and if it feels like you, then keep watching the video. He said, I had in me the reoccurring nightmarish vision of evolving into a 35-year-old in a boardroom who had had exactly the same trajectory and life experience as everyone else in the room, and thereby propagating the same ideological flaws which have led to products like Internet of Things toothbrushes, $4,000 toasters, and collateralized debt obligations. That was not an outcome I wanted. Not an outcome I want either. Step one, if you want to try to get unlost in your 20s, you gotta silence yourself. So one of the things that Owes did when he was in India is he took a 10-day meditation course. It's called Vipassana, and essentially what Vipassana meditation is you can't say anything, you can't interact with anyone for 10 whole days. At least in their course it was 10 days. Maybe it varies on the number of days depending on the course you're in. But he couldn't talk to anyone for 10 days. I mean, could you imagine that? Like, I don't even think I keep my mouth shut for 10 minutes, right? Let alone 10 days. And this is actually exactly what he said. He said, in ordinary life, I have never been unstimulated long enough to experience the intense discomfort that arises from being bored to one's core. In fact, I suspect that because entertainment is so widespread, I usually pacify myself instinctively just as the first ticklings of discomfort arrive. Because who doesn't, right? With so much technology, so much information, so much news, so much Netflix, you know, we're all just getting hit by these torpedoes of information every single day. I feel like it's not just impacting us on the daily level, but when it comes to making our big life decisions, we don't actually sit still long enough to listen to our own thoughts about what we want. You know, instead we just reach for whoever gives us the first answer. You should be an actuary. Okay. You should be a dentist. Okay. You know, and we just take it and we go with it without actually sitting down and silencing ourselves. So, step number one, silence yourself. This ain't about me. This ain't about your dog. This ain't about your neighbor. It's about you. Once you're quiet and still and you feel like you really are ready to take in whatever inputs are coming, that's when I need you to do step two. Question your world. And I think I can give you a better example of this from Owes's book than I can do on my own. All right, he says, the process of relearning in India has been monumental, and especially so with simple truths I already know. For example, the statement, vegetables grow in the ground. It's a statement that's almost too plain to warrant consideration. However, in India, carrots are sold on street carts where they sit in piles, often still tickled in dirt. This stands in stark contrast to life back home in London or in the USA. Oh yeah, did I mention OS is British? He is. Fun fact. He said, where when laying eyes upon some garden peas being sold at the supermarket, I first see the packaging, the price tag, the barcode, and then the peas. Implicitly, I'm being told that someone else had to make the plastic wrapping. Someone once decided what the barcode for this product would be and cross-referenced it against every other product sold. So the product which reaches me feels detached from nature. That passage was actually so interesting to me because it just made me consider how, detached from nature things in the Western world really are, and how we've kind of built this society where everything we see has been constructed, designed, or paved by another human. When I ask you to question your world, what I'm asking you is that when something doesn't feel right to you, instead of just accepting it as the status quo, maybe question things at the deeper level and be like, well, maybe it doesn't feel right to me because society is the one who's got it wrong. Right? Maybe society built this wrong, and maybe it doesn't agree with me because this is not how we as human beings should be living. You know, a great example of this is probably questioning why the 40-hour work week is just standard, right? Like, who sat down and said 40 hours is the optimal number of hours that people should be working every day? Who said that? Like, did we ever have a class on that? I don't remember ever agreeing to it. I live in a democracy. I didn't get to raise my hand and vote, but that's just kind of the way things through incentives over history have helped develop the world into. And so if 40 hours doesn't fit you, don't think it's necessarily a you problem. Maybe it's a societal problem. Maybe you would do far better if you had 60 hours, or maybe you would do far better if you were working 32 hours. Don't always think that you are the problem. Sometimes question the world around you. The third tip for getting yourself unlost in your 20s, once you silence yourself, once you've questioned your world and you think you have a decision on where you want to go, throw yourself in. This book is so dang good. I have another example from it. So essentially near the end of the book, he talks about going back to the UK and then to the US, and people asking him this question. They're like, so what were your top 3 highlights from going to India? And he's like, how do these people not get it? That's not the point. I can't sum up everything I did in India in 3 points for you to just take and think that you know everything now. Your life can't be experienced vicariously through somebody else's. You have to throw yourself in. You can't just be theoretical about it all the time. And I think that's something that a lot of times people are willing to sacrifice when it comes to self-help books or, TV. You think you know everything about a place just because you heard somebody else talk about it, and that's not true. You need to have your own experience with locations, your own experience with jobs, your own experience with friends to really understand on an internal level what feels right for you. OS talked about, sometimes after traveling too long, you can experience diminishing returns, right? So maybe you'll find that when you're traveling, wow, it really does get dull after a year, after 2 years, but that's not something you're gonna learn from watching everybody on Instagram talk about oh geez, I love my digital nomad lifestyle. You're not gonna learn that. Or he talks about going into a job in London right afterwards where he codes and sometimes looking at the computer screen and feeling like life is just mind-numbingly dull. You're not gonna learn that just from watching freaking The Office. You gotta throw yourself in to a job and see, wow, is this really what my work experience is like? Because every work experience is different, every travel experience is different, and every little nuance changes experience to experience, and people will respond differently to those little changes and nuances. So you might realize, oh, I love this aspect of the work world, but I love this aspect about travel. And you carve out your own path. But you can only do this by throwing yourself in and adjusting yourself accordingly. Not like I've got it figured out. I'm traveling, I'm trying to have a life, I can't find my balance. But the thing is I took the time to silence myself, to question the world, and to throw myself in, you know, and that's really all you can do. And that's actually what brings me to point number 4. Accept that youth is stressful. Of course it's gonna be stressful. We are young, right? We are like the start of a branch on a tree. Maybe we're the trunk, and we can decide whichever branch we wanna go down. We have all these options, right? But having all these options brings unnecessary anxiety that we are gonna choose the wrong path. But there was a quote in here that really, really helped me de-stress, and I will read it for you now. So he's talking about meeting somebody while he was in India, and here's how it goes. One of the ladies responds, "A feature of being young is the feeling of restlessness." And something clicks. Suddenly I have a word to describe the feeling I've been having incessantly, but have never been able to find words for. It's a flittering, uncertain feeling that waves up and down. Sometimes it feels as though the doubt is all-encompassing, that I do not know what I will be doing a month from now, or a day from now, and I have no conviction that I am doing the right thing at any moment in time. She assures me that the feeling will disappear eventually. Most people grow out of it. Because we do grow out of it. You know, when we get far down on life's path, or life's branch, you know, depending on how you want to view this imagery, when you get older, all the options that were once available to you now no longer feel like options, and the anxiety of having to choose them kind of melts away, and you become content in the fact that this is what your life is. You know, so right now I think it's just the anxiety of choice that freaks out a lot of people. But if you really just sit down, think about it, and then choose to throw yourself in, I mean, how wrong can you be? You know, just accept. You're gonna be a little stressed out. You have other options, but you gotta get past it. And then the last thing Ooyy said that I just loved, she says something else that sticks. You cannot sample all that the world has to offer in a lifetime. I realize this is something I already know, but I also notice that I have been living as though I didn't know this, as though I would be able to try out everything before committing to a decision. You don't get to try everything out. Life's not an ice cream store. It's not a Cold Stone. You can't walk in and ask, hey, can I try the vanilla, the strawberry, the chocolate? Why would you try the 3 most common flavors? Life is more like an ice cream store where they're like, you can sample 2, but then after you sample 2, choose your freaking ice cream. And that doesn't mean you can't come back to the store and choose a different one. It just means that it will cost you a little bit more money and time. But yeah, that's life. Silence yourself. Question your world. Throw yourself in. And accept that life is stressful. But yeah, I have to promote this one more time because I love it so much, and I genuinely think if a Wes was a writer, the world would be a better place. If you guys are looking for a book to buy, you're feeling a little lost in your 20s, maybe your 30s, maybe your 40s, this is a great purchase. Travels in India, Wes Hussein. I'll link it down below. All right, that's it. I'm Yes or No. If you want to follow my wild Munich adventures, go on Instagram and follow me at Yes or No. And until then, stay saucy. Stay saucy.
No.